Welcome. May this day be the first day and the best day of your life until tomorrow. I want to start this video with a thank you for four people's transformation of my life. One, it begins with Master Shen of the Mantis School of Tai Chi. Each school of Tai Chi in the Oriental discipline often chooses an animal form that best symbolizes the system of movements that epitomizes that school. The Mantis School, and in particular two of their excellent students, Andy Miles, and Sifu Andy Miles and Sifu Nick Baker, both have begun to blend the Western medicine research and understanding of how the body works with the Oriental wisdom of health and wellness, demonstrated and educated through the movements of Tai Chi and medical Qigong in particular. So thank you, Master Chen, Andy Miles, Lon Miles, his wife, who is a PhD in herbal pharmacology, and Sifu Nick Baker. All of them have been a part of my transformation. This ancient Chinese wisdom began approximately 2,500 years ago. The emperors of China noticed that the warriors, these kung fu martial artists, were all very healthy. And they said, we would like to have that level of health. We don't need to have you teach me to fight. We have people for that. But please give me a set of exercises that allows me to have the same quality of health that you have. And since they were viewed as gods and were always honored and obeyed, these martial artists brought together a series of exercises that have been secret and held close to their hearts, and they're now being shared with you on this video. My story begins being at a Buddhist retreat. For about at least a year and a half, I had severe back pain. And I had gone to doctors, I went to chiropractors. Nothing was working. This gentleman mentioned that he had back pain so severe that he fell passed out mowing the lawn. And this was a young man in his 30s. He said, but he discovered Chinese medicine. Primarily an herb formulation that he took for a month and no longer had any back pain. It was gone. And it hadn't returned. I said, wow, can I talk to the doctor? He said, no. He's Vietnamese. I had to go through 3 translators. He doesn't answer his phone. But I have the recipe. May I have it, please? Absolutely. I went out and rushed and got the recipe and took it for a month. It tasted terrible. But I got 10% relief. And I was grateful. And I said, well, I'll just go and continue to take these nasty tasting things because I didn't want my back to hurt anymore. Fortunately, prior to my going shopping, I met Dr. Sifu Andy Miles. He had just moved to town and he'd written several books on medical Qigong, really combining the medical Western research that's freely available on the internet and ancient Chinese wisdom. It's one of the reasons why I'm being dressed the way I am. A silk dragon shirt and Western Levi pants. And that combination of East and West that really has transformed my life. Andy gave me a formulation of herbs, which did help. 4-day formulation. And most importantly, he gave me hours of exercise that I freely did. And after 4 days and 8 hours of exercise, the pain wasn't less. It was gone. And I was sold. This transformation is exactly what I want to share with you on this video. Am I excited about that light switch of health being turned on? Absolutely. And that's why I'm offering to you and to all those people that you care about, that you notice that they're carrying pain in their neck or their shoulders or their back. This is the answer to begin helping them help themselves, to create a fresh life. I like to begin with all our medical Qigong exercises with a reminder on how to breathe. It's very important to breathe deeply into your stomach, making full use of your lungs rather than that shallow breathing that many of us in the West do. We want to breathe fully with our hips tucked. This is the stance in all of the exercises to the best of your ability. Tucking your hips, breathing deep into the stomach, where you actually feel the stomach going in and out, in and out, filling the stomach with air as if it's a balloon. That allows the best oxygenation of the intestines and the best oxygenation of your whole body. Keep this in mind always in all the exercises that continue on this tape. Additionally, one of the things that's very important to remember, if you have an irritation in your body, some pain, some chronic pain, some acute pain, one of the things that you're going to want to do is breathe in through your nose and sigh out your mouth. That's the release. If you're exhausted at many times, you're going to want to do the opposite. When you're tired at the end of the day and you don't feel like you have as much energy as you would like, breathe in through your mouth and slowly allow it out your nose. These two breaths are key in breathing. The first breath we call the sighing breath, breathing in through the nose. Sighing. That releases a lot of the gases and the things that are, shall I say, alien to the body. That exhausted air releases, and it releases the pain. When you're exhausted, guess what? Maybe you're releasing too much. And so it's very important to breathe in your mouth and slowly allow it out your nose. One way, when you're breathing in more oxygen, and maybe all of it doesn't come out, so you oxygenate more. When you breathe out your mouth, you're exhausting more. So those two things are always important in all the exercises that we're going to be doing. There will be some specific exercises that I'll remind you again the importance of this. But I want you to remember that all the time in all of the exercises that we'll be doing here today. We're beginning the journey of medical Qigong with the lungs. The lungs are our first, shall I say, infusion of outside influences through our mouth and into our body. The lungs are connected to the immune system, the lymph system, which doesn't really have a pump. And so our muscles and our physical activities support the movement of the lymph and support the immune system. So we're going to begin our medical Qigong exercises today with warming our hands. If you start a fire with it, you get extra credit. But as you begin to warm your hands, you're opening up the circulation and the capillaries. You're creating some heat. You don't need a heating pad. You just need to warm your hands, get the friction going. And the first thing that you do is begin warming your neck. You massage your neck. There's a whole lot of lymph nodes there. And you begin moving your hands and massaging your hands, getting some of the circulation and the lymph moving there. There's a tremendous amount of lymph nodes there. Make sure you go to the back of your head. I find that actually clasping your hands and putting more pressure on the back of your head, as I'm doing here, is very helpful in massage in this area. Also get the top of your head. Get your face. Actually massaging it. In particular, get the sides of your nose. In your sinuses, there is an enzyme called nitric oxide synthase. You may have heard of nitric oxide. It was the molecule of the year in 1992, if you might have noticed. But it was noticed that this molecule really opened up the capillaries. It was a vasodilator that really contributed to health and well-being of people. And guess what? That nitric oxide synthase is what really helps build nitric oxide in your body. These exercises, all of the exercises that we're going to be doing for the lungs, build that nitric oxide in your body naturally. You don't have to take nitric oxide pills to help your heart and dilate your capillaries. These exercises will help with that. In fact, they've been so helpful that Andy Miles' clinic was bought by QWellness because they wanted to have her heart patients have these exercises to contribute to their health. That's an exceptional doctor. So moving and remembering, massaging the sides of your nose, and even doing a hum will open up and contribute to that production of nitric oxide. Additionally, what we want to do, the second exercise, is actually stimulating, putting your hands over your ears and remembering to deep breathe and essentially drumming on the back of your head. You can go to a certain tune. Marches, I find, are very good. But that begins to also contribute to the opening and activation of all those meridian points that you may have heard of, that the acupuncture pushes on. But by massaging them yourself, you contribute to your own health and well-being. The third exercise that I like to remind people to do, and this happens, how many people do you know that have immune deficiencies or begin to catch colds or coughs or things like that? It all begins in the neck and in the sinuses, because the lungs are trying to help block the germs and the things going in. So they create the congestion. The congestion is not a problem. The congestion is a defense mechanism. So if you begin to utilize that defense mechanism and activate it and help the defense mechanism by getting that lymph nodes working and more efficiently helping your body, you'll be healthier. So the first exercise we're going to be doing, and this is the explanation of this, and you'll actually see the workout later in this tape, but you just turn your neck to the side as far as you can, looking back as far as you can, and breathing deeply whether it's sighing or yawning breath, turn as far and do about 8 breaths on one side. Breathe to the center and go to the other side. This movement, you'll find you will have less restriction as you practice this movement. Additionally, you will be stimulating the lymph by having those muscles contract and relax. That's what helps move the lymph along. 8 breaths to the left, 8 breaths to the right. The next one is 8 breaths down, pulling your neck muscles as far as you can. Down. 8 breaths down. And 8 breaths to the top. Again, this is really great for that cosmetic appeal. Avoiding plastic surgery by simply getting the gobble neck gone with these exercises. So there's 2 benefits: health and wellness and beautification of America. Again with the neck, continuing on, and making sure that you have a full range of motion, go down and to the left, as if you're painting a square. Down and to the left for 8 breaths. And then on the side, go up to the top for the same breath. 8 breaths. And after 8 breaths on one side, stay up on the top, and 8 breaths on the right. And going down on the other side, same side, you now have a square. Breathing to the center. Now with your chin, the first exercise is painting the square up and down with your chin. Wives, this is very good to get your husband to practice this exercise. Yes, honey. And just to make sure that you have full range of motion in your body. Breathe to the center. And the final neck exercise in this, shall I say, set, is writing your name in cursive across your viewing screen, making sure that you have complete realm of motion. As your neck is a little looser now, one of the things that you want to begin to do is neck rotations. Slowly. Moving your neck, rotating in one direction. Not too fast, not too slow. On the breath. If you hear cracks or noises, go a little slower and a little smaller. After about 16 rotations, go the other way. All of these are stimulating nitric oxide production, opening up capillaries, and supporting your lymph flow. And after 16, You go to the center, and then we call this shoulder rotations. Simply on the inhale, raising your shoulders up, and then exhaling them down. Exhaling down. Again, breathing deeply into your stomach. And do this about 8 to 16 breaths again. All of this depends on your importance of stimulating your immune system. Certain times of the year, in the winter time, you're certainly going to want to do lots of this lung exercises, And after you've done about 8 to 16, put your hands on your shoulders and do circles with your elbows. Going as far back as you can. And touching your elbows in the front reminds you to make full circles. These are all lung exercises. One additional lung exercise that really is stimulating to the lung meridian is simply taking that hard edge of your Karate Kid chop and just rubbing the top of that ridge along your forearm. Holding your thumb straight up and rubbing along the top of that arm. You may notice a lot of redness there. And if you're doing it very well, you'll notice 3 spots that will appear on your wrist. Those 3 spots says that those areas in your lungs, those channels, those meridians, however you wish to phrase them, those capillaries are open, active, and distributing oxygen and all those gasotransmitters in the way that you wish. And this is something that you can do for as long or as short as you wish. It's just sort of your own healthcare maintenance that really supports the lungs. Now that our shoulders are a little looser, we begin continuing our lung exercises with X's. Essentially, patting ourselves on the back. And do this for 8 or 10 or 12, whatever it feels good, depending on how much you want to hug yourself. You'll probably start feeling a tingling in your fingers. That's good. What we're doing is expanding our lungs. The next exercise that we're going to be doing is what we call swimming. And it's basically breathing in with your hands and exhaling as you're swimming through the air. What we're doing next is keeping our arms in that perpendicular fashion and imagining as if we're having a beach ball in our arms, that we're at the beach and there's ocean breezes and we're rotating our arms around the beach ball. Again, do 8, 16 breaths, depending on how much or how important your immune system is for you. The next exercise is what's called percussive massage. Again, we're working with massaging by actually pounding down the arms and the lymph system, and then smoothing the lymph system, actually pushing the lymph down and pushing it up. You're going to want to exhale on the down and inhale on the up, essentially stimulating the circulation and physically moving the lymph. Remember to breathe in, exhale as you go down, and inhale as you go up. You're going to want to do it on both sides. Later on the CD, on the DVD, we will be having a full exercise, but I want to explain each one of them. The next one is actually doing the same thing, starting by hitting right underneath your rib cage and beginning to move down your legs on the outside. Go down as far as you can. Don't beat yourself up if you only go down so far. And then that's on the exhale, and on the inhale, breathe up. Smoothing down on the exhale and smoothing in on the inhale. These get a great stimulation of circulation and lymph. The last exercise Sifu Nick has given me that I really appreciate, and it really is one of the best remedies if you ever get a cough. This one, a doctor friend tried this for 5 minutes and he was amazed. So what you begin is with a stance with your feet 90 degrees, perpendicular. And I want you to imagine that you've just picked some flowers in the garden. And you want to bring those flowers from your hands and smell the flowers, and you smell the flowers. I smell the flowers, you smell the flowers. If you'll notice, I'm shifting my weight and moving my arms. Picking flowers, smell the flowers, you smell the flowers. Shifting forward and back, slight turning. And this simple exercise for 5 minutes will do dramatic things for anyone with a cough. You'll also want to do it to the other side. Smell my flowers, you smell my flowers. Smell my flowers, you smell my flowers. All of these exercises stimulate nitric oxide production, open up capillaries, and I'm sure just from these exercises, even the explanation, your capillaries and your circulation is already increased and will be ready for the next set, which is our kidneys.
Cut.
The second set, or the second organ that we're going to be working on, now that we have circulation and our immune system is peaked, is the kidneys. The kidneys balance the nitric oxide production with hydrogen sulfide. It's another gasotransmitter that is in the bloodstream that lives in the kidneys, in the uterus, and also the adrenal glands. That nitric oxide synthase needs to have blood circulation going by the kidneys to stimulate the production. One of the first ways to do that is what's called horse stance. Horse stance is bending your knees, having your hips tucked, and essentially standing like the horse's legs, bringing blood to your legs and therefore bringing blood to your kidneys. Without that, when you're sitting down, guess what? There's not much blood demand into your legs. When you're driving instead of walking, you're not getting blood into your legs. And so the first exercise in remembering in all kidney exercises is have that stance as long and as much as you can. In fact, the first exercise I call it Swami arms or rising and falling, is simply raising up your arms, straightening your legs, and then going down. Go down as far as you can. Breathing in on the up, exhaling on the down. Breathing in on the up, exhaling on the down. In fact, recently I saw a Chinese documentary. Thankfully it had subtitles. And there was an 85-year-old man, Chinese man, that they were documenting, and he still roller skated. He still had his balance. And he, his daughter, and his grandson all started doing this exercise. At 20, the 60-year-old daughter stopped. I can't do anymore. At 35, the grandson, that was 30-some years old, he couldn't do anymore. And the 85-year-old grandfather was still rising and falling, a key to his health. The next exercise for the kidneys is called windsock. If you think about one of those windsock people and simply slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, go down like it's on a windsock, and then raising up one vertebrae at a time, and then down. Again, this is, in this movement, stimulating the kidneys. And quite honestly, a movement people don't do too often. The third kidney exercise that you can do is called Three Immortals Crossing the Ocean. I love the imagery of that. And basically you have your fingers like they're in a walking man, and you put those fingers straight up as you're flying across the ocean. Again, this movement stimulates that hydrogen sulfide production that further balances the nitric oxide. Remembering that deep breath, remembering that deep stance, bringing that blood down. The next level kidney exercise, and there are 3 levels to this, depending on your physical activity, depending on your abilities. And the kids in the Qigong class talk about this as washing machines. And basically the first level of this exercise is swinging your arms and hitting the back of your kidneys. That percussive massage is hitting that back hand. If you hit the top of your shoulder blades, guess what? You're stimulating the gallbladder. The next level of this would be actually shifting your weight at the same time. So you begin shifting your hips and bouncing up and down. This is another level of exertion and stimulation. The next level of exercise, again for the kidneys, and reminding yourself of the breathing, it's beginning this figure 8. It's called swimming dragon. And there are 3 levels to this exercise, essentially making a figure 8. High up, into the middle, high up, into the middle. If you bend over, slightly while the dragon's tail is swimming. And then if you shift your weight during the movement, each one of these movements expands the capacity of working that blood flow to the kidneys. Additionally, besides getting the blood to the legs, which great hikers do all the time, the turning of the body also stimulates the massage of the organs and massage of the kidney by deep breathing into the diaphragm, into the stomach. The diaphragm essentially massages the kidney, especially when you twist. I call this one the wringing of the dish rag. Basically 8 breaths, turning your whole torso with your hands, index fingers, pointing at each other. And when you really deep breathe, you'll feel that tension. You'll feel that stretching in the back. You'll feel that massage of the kidneys. And your kidneys love that. Another exercise very similar is called Look Behind and Cure 1,000 Diseases. This is a little bit more expansive, but it's a similar kind of behavior, but this time instead of your hands here, you get a little further expansion and twist by having your hands pulling the twist a little further. The more you can turn and the more you can stretch those kidney muscles or the muscles surrounding the kidneys, the more happy the kidneys will be. How many old people do you find have dysfunctional kidneys and their bladders aren't holding the water that they used to have? And it's because they haven't been doing these medical Qigong exercises that are so, so important. The final exercise that we're going to be doing for kidneys is called Clever Monkey Cleaning the Channels. And basically this is very similar to one that we noticed was the Long Qigong, but basically we start with breathing here, breathing in to our stomachs, and then pushing down the fronts of our legs and pulling up the backs of our legs and massaging the back of our kidneys. Again, from the side, it is pushing down the front, pulling up the back, massaging as you're bending over, and then on the exhale, pushing down and pushing up. And then continuing that behavior for 4 or 5 breaths. All of those turning, twisting, bended knee kinds of motions benefit your kidneys and benefit from the production of that hydrogen sulfide. The final kidney exercise is much more strenuous, and at the same time it does have the greatest impact. What you're wanting to do is do as deep a horse stance as possible. If you can get to 90 degrees, you're very good. And essentially to one side, hold as if you're in archery stance for as long as you can hold this pose at 90 degrees with your legs, the more effective you'll be. Again, moving to the other side, the same deep horse stance, holding and breathing deeply will create tremendously strong kidneys. We're going to be doing 4 very, very powerful exercises for the liver. Unfortunately, the liver in our society in particular gets challenged greatly in a myriad of different ways. These exercises in particular are very helpful often in our culture to use sighing breaths. Releasing that fire in the liver, which was that challenge for my back in particular, but that releasing and sighing breath is very helpful in these exercises in particular. The first one will be pushing the walls out, holding your arms outwardly in the horse stance as much as possible, bringing in, scooping in the sand, and then pushing the walls out. Breathing in, pushing the walls out. Breathing in, pushing the walls out. The more you can get that stretch on the ligaments in your arms, the better. The more you're tense in your ligaments, that's when the liver's not working well. It's processing other things instead of stimulating that flow of relaxation. So do this pushing the walls out as the first of your liver exercises. The next liver exercise probably seems greatly silly, especially when you first started. And it is probably one of the most profound exercises that you can do, helping your liver. And what I want you to do, just to begin, is just start shaking your hands. As if you've just washed them and you don't have a paper towel or something to dry them on and you've got to go outside. Or maybe you ladies that have just had your nails done and you've got to get into the car and you want to get those nails done. And so you just shake your hands. And you may notice that you have some tension in them, or some ways that your movements aren't working very well. And so what you want to do is just tell it to relax and shake it out. Then the next thing you do is go to your elbows and hands and shake your elbows and hands. And as that loosens up, go to your shoulders. And basically see how tense or how loose you are in those shoulders. I assure you, when I first started, I was shaking like this. There was tremendous tension in my body. And after doing it for a year, my body is looser and those tendons are looser and there's not too many stuck places. The next place you want to go is your knees. Start by just shaking your knees as if you're scared. Oh no, the boogeyman is after me. And then get to your ankles. And then begin shaking all of your body. Shifting doing the little hula hoop. Again, this wind shakes the tree is one of the most powerful liver exercises you can do. And you can begin by breathing in your nose. The looser you are, the better your liver is. Do this for a minute, 2, 3, build up longer. The benefits will be fantastic. Consider it. The third one is a little more strenuous, but for those of you that are progressing along, it's probably one of the most powerful. The liver basically pushes. So what we're going to ask the body to do in our physical exercise that we're going to do, we're going to start with a deep horse stance. We're asking the blood to go down into the legs. And what we're going to do is breathe in, and with a shout, bah! Ask the blood to come up to the legs with that punching motion. But from the legs to the arms makes that blood demand push. The liver makes that pressure. And so what happens is, by doing 6 of these, Gah! 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 Don't do this with little children around, unless you get them to do it with you. The last one of the liver series, often our hips get quite tense. They are not as loose as when we were doing the hula hoop, for those of you who remember the hula hoop. What I like to tell people to do in the final liver exercise is basically as if you're having 6 guns and you're shifting your weight from one leg to the other, making a circular 8. And you'll notice that your 6 guns are shooting in different directions. The more you do this, the more fluidity that you'll have in your hips will support that healthy liver that's not irritated and angry because you ate that 14-ounce steak at 11 o'clock at night when it wants to go to sleep, or have several drinks past 2 o'clock when it wants to clean your tendons. So think about taking care of your liver, and your liver will take care of you. Bang. We're going to do 3 exercises for the heart. Now, one of the things that I really want to encourage with the heart exercises is anyone that has heart problems at all, hypertension, high blood pressure, anything surrounding their heart, please be very gentle with yourself, and also always do exhaling breaths when you're doing this. Remember the exhaling breath, in the nose, out the mouth. The first one is making a heart and bringing our arms up on the inhale and exhaling, bringing your hands down in front of your body. Inhaling on the up and exhaling on the down. Inhaling on the up, exhaling on the down. Again, 8 to 16 breaths. The next one is picking cherries from the tree. Starting with your hands up, just basically moving your hands up and down. The longer you do this, the more tired your arms are. What you're doing is you're asking the blood to come above your head. The heart is working against gravity in this situation, and so it has to work harder. That's what we want to do. Still holding your heads up after you're doing this exercise for a while. Bend backwards, holding your hands straight up and pointing your index fingers together towards each other. Holding this stance, remembering to breathe deeply into your stomach, remembering to back bend greatly. And in fact, smiling is very helpful in this stance, as the Happy Buddha stance. And if you try laughing, you'll get that feeling of where the diaphragm is actually massaging your stomach and is loose. And that's what you want to do. So often there is tremendous tension in this area of intestines, and that stance will help minimize that tension and begin to allow your heart to work the way it is intended to work, supporting all the other organs with its circulation. Those 3 exercises for the heart. Again, remembering sighing breaths if you have any heart challenges at all. If hypertension or high blood pressure, because those are very important to remember and respect a building nature for your heart. You'll be glad you did. There are 3 levels of exercises for the spleen. And we're going to start with the first one that's quite easiest. It's as if you're putting one hand up, holding up the ceiling, and one hand down, holding down the floor. And what you do is you breathe into the stomach, pulling your hands together, and then switching your hands. It's as simple as that. The spleen works with all the organs, and you notice we're going up and down. Inhaling, exhaling. Now you don't want to breathe in and out your mouth. I'm only doing that for effect, to show you when you index fingers pointing in always and forward. That's the first spleen exercise. The second spleen exercise has 3 levels. I'm going to actually show and break down. It's a very complex movement, and so I'm going to start with the first movement just to begin having you get the weight distribution. Putting both hands in your bow stance, and both hands as if you're putting your hand on a table. And what you do is you breathe in by moving forward, and you exhale when you come back. Inhale as you bring your arms together. Exhale as you circle out. Inhale. Exhale. It's called blossoming lotus. You're bringing your hands together on the inhale. Bring your elbows together, blossom your hands, and open your arms in a circular fashion. Inhale. You're getting up and down, you're twisting your torso, and you're shifting your weight. And then do the same thing on the other side. Eight to 16 times is really helpful in that movement to help the spleen. The final exercise, and I always thought this is almost the silliest, is tummy rub. Do you remember when you were a child and mom rubbed your tummy and you felt better? Well, this is rubbing your own tummy. It stimulates circulation. It stimulates oxygenation of the intestines. It helps peristalsis. And it's important to go both directions. Start with one direction and go 36 or 72 in one direction. Breathing in. One cycle in and out should be about the cycle of your tummy rub. And then after 36 or 72, go the other direction. You don't have to shift your weight, but I find that it's easier to do the movement when I actually shift my weight. If you go through all of these exercises, it'll take about an hour. You don't have to do each and every one of them, especially if one is particularly uncomfortable. Let's say, for example, in the kidney qigong, the twisting is a little bit more painful. Do more rising and falling. That's just working the legs and getting that leg strength, which then stimulates the kidneys. Eventually, you may be able to turn more, but most importantly, be gentle with yourself, be persistent and consistent, and the results that you will get will be fantastic. Like I mentioned, the difference between the time that I was in pain and 4 days later I was not in pain was the difference between night and day. I hope that for you. So often I think we get into situations in our lives that we don't realize how much pain we've been in until we don't have it again. My hope, by you practicing this video, will allow you to have health and vitality twice as much as I have. All of us have people in our lives that our hearts go out to. My dad was in an automobile accident and had a spinal cord injury the last years of his life. My mom is tied to a walker at 91. She still gets around, but the quality of her life is diminished. Thankfully, I have these exercises that we just shared, but they can be done by someone in a wheelchair. They can be done seated in beginning to elevate their quality of life. Think about the exercises we've done. You certainly can have somebody rub their hands and rub their neck. You certainly can encourage them to turn their head. Whether they turn their torso or not, it's still that twisting and torsion motion. The arm movements. They are certainly much more effective when you stand, but they can be done seated. The heart exercise in particular would be very helpful for the elderly. Other exercises, tummy rub, doesn't require standing. Breathing deeply and encouraging them to breathe deep into their abdomen can be done whether you're standing and you're sitting. All of these exercises, I support not only you doing them if you are reasonably healthy, but please consider giving this DVD to people that have less mobility than you have. Those people that you care for in your life that you would like to give them in some way, some gift that might support a higher quality of life for them. Two other things that are very helpful, aside from the exercises, get a heating pad. Those ones that flip in the microwave and you can put on for 4 minutes, and put that heating pad, you can put it on their stomach. You can put it in particular on their kidneys. If they are bedridden, their kidneys get very little love and attention. That heated pad, whether it be electrical or stimulated by the microwave or even the old hot water bottle, can really support that blood flow and that love to the kidneys to allow them a higher quality of life. Another huge support with that is foot soaks. How many times have you thought of putting someone's feet into hot water. Whether it is ginger tea, which is very excellent, or Epsom salts, anything, that hot water, drawing that blood, drawing the body's crucial nutrients and oxygen down into the feet when you aren't walking and when you are in the wheelchair or less mobile as we get older. These things are very, very important. And the more we realize we have the capacity of controlling our own health and well-being, the better off we're going to be. I had a recent acquaintance tell me that his mom would walk well into her 90s. How many people do you know that walk to the village to get the loaf of bread and come home and feed the family with a walk? Please consider these exercises, not for me, but for your own health and well-being and those other people that are in your life. Thank you.